What's up, y'all? It's Ryan, and I want to thank you all for tuning in and listening. I am now recording from my new apartment in Nashville, Tennessee, and one thing that's always made me feel at home is Gerald, James, and all of you that listen to this podcast and make everything possible. So I really appreciate y'all supporting the podcast, being engaged. Be on the lookout for our Twitter and Instagram accounts coming very, very soon. And I hope you enjoy this episode. We talk about the NBA, the NFL. We talk about Thanksgiving. We talk about an unfortunate incident involving Gerald and just everything in between. So I hope you enjoy this week's episode because it's one of our best. And I hope we can make your day just a little bit better with everything that's going on in the world. So without further ado, I pass you off to the production of Ross Gossage. Let's go.
Hey Ross, sauce it up.
What's up, y'all? It is Put in the Group Chat podcast. I am Ryan. It is November 20. Well, this is going to come out on November 28th, but today is November 27th. It's around 3:40 Eastern time. I'm here with my co-host Gerald and James. It's the day after Thanksgiving. I just got done. I learned this week how important it is to not go grocery shopping the day before Thanksgiving. I guess we can start there. I guess I'll start off with a small personal anecdote. I went grocery shopping the day before Thanksgiving because I just moved down here to Nashville. Getting my bearings on things. Trying out the different grocery stores. I went to the Kroger's. There's a Publix in the opposite direction. Completely different sides of town. I'll leave it there. Completely different environments, atmospheres, as my mother called ambiance. So the Publix is a little bit more people who, how I put this nicely, they put raisin in their potato salad at the Publix. And it was crowded. I learned that very quickly. And it's a small store, compact, trying to get by, trying to get to, the turkey. So I have something to put in my collard greens. And this woman with her child, small child, couldn't have been more than 18 months, just chilling in the middle of the aisle, having a conversation. Day before Thanksgiving, crowded as hell, has no mask on. Obviously, baby can't have the mask on. She chilling. I'm trying to get by. I graze. When I tell you I grazed the wheel of her front cart, of her stroller, and she lost her fucking mind. She lost her fucking mind in the Publix.
Publix, man.
I don't understand, one, why people are out here without masks, but we've had that discussion. I'm not going to go down that road again. But people who are in grocery stores, this is before the pandemic, this is during the pandemic, go in and know what you need. Do not be standing in the middle of the aisle having a conversation on the phone about what you need to do to make such and such dish. If you don't know how to make it, you don't need to be in the grocery store to go get it, because chances are you're throwing it up for everybody else. So either know what you need to get or know what you're making and just keep it moving.
I gotta say, I'm the middle of the aisle person though. If I'm trying to do something off memory, or if I'm hungry at the store, maybe that's what goes on. But yeah, I don't know. She went off on you, dang.
Yeah, she was not happy. For me, I go into any type of public space whether it be the train, grocery store, what have you. I have earbuds in, so I'm half listening to you and I'm half listening to Gucci Man, and I'm not really paying attention to what you have to say at that point in time. And if I'm listening to what Gucci Man would say, this entire situation would have gone completely differently. But obviously, I'm a suburban child. I went to college. I'm of a different mindset. I don't react like that. Otherwise, I would be in that Publix to begin with. So
This
I just
nigga
say
said
that.
I went to college.
To college. It'd be like that though.
I'm dead.
Hey, I'm just saying. I've been around a few different colleges. I'm not saying there aren't people out there that you don't want to have problems with at college. I'm just saying they are few and far between in college, and that's for all the college students out there. Don't let somebody punk you into thinking that they are tough or they're from someplace they are in the same biology class as you. Do not let them punk you into thinking that. So I'll leave it there. And I'll ask y'all how y'all Thanksgiving was, how your holidays were, just how everything is going for you in general.
I mean, I ain't got a story like that. Ain't no white people going off on me, but I mean, it was cool. We didn't eat till like 7:30 though. Like, I don't know what that was about, but we was chilling though. We watched Bringing Down the House. Now that's a good movie. I don't know if y'all seen that one, but that's the movie right there. Man, talk about different cultures. Anyway, I know that movie's from like 2003, but it's a good movie. But that was really my Thanksgiving. You mess up the sweet potatoes. Get you a little bit of macaroni, call it a day. But the football was boo boo though.
They moved the only good game. What did you expect, dude?
Football is boo boo.
Defund Detroit Lions.
Yeah.
Hey, it ain't Thanksgiving until Detroit lose a football game, bro.
Right. Somehow Deshaun Watson is still good through all that, though. But
yeah.
We gonna talk about him because I just saw something. The Texans just did something.
Oh Lord.
Gerald, how was your Thanksgiving?
It was good, but leading up to that, it was kind of sketchy for a second there. Because obviously, I'm not going to cook the day before Thanksgiving. So I'm like, all right, fuck it. Let me go get me some pizza from cross street. I come back, apparently, it's nighttime, whatever. I wake up in the morning, I get a neighborhood watch notification talking about watch out. Apparently, there was some dude in a hoodie getting the pizza late at night. They called me a suspicious ass. I was like, what?
Hey, that's racist.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Oh.
So that shit came down, and my father went crazy on this shit, and the entire neighborhood just started clowning the neighborhood watch, and I was like, God damn, what the fuck?
So wow. It's illegal to get a pizza in a hoodie? Is that what?
Wow. Keep in mind, Gerald's like 6'5", yeah. So I don't know, I don't understand because I'm not scared of black people, but I can understand how some raisin, in the salad people would understand, would find Gerald a little bit frightening, but that's racist nonetheless. That is crazy.
That is what? How yeah? I just
neighborhood watch.
Man,
I thought they got rid of those way back in the day.
Nah, bro. But the crazy thing is, they said I was doing suspicious behavior with a pizza. What am I gonna do with a pizza box?
Yeah.
See.
What you gonna do? Hit somebody over the head with some cardboard? Is that what you?
Right. Fling some crust at.
But I think we could start with some more horrible things that happened on Thanksgiving. Millions of people tuned in to watch the Lions and the Texans play. So there's that. I think that went sort of how we expected it to go. Deshaun Watson was the best player on the field. And it showed that Deshaun Watson was the best player on the field.
But apparently the Texans don't think so because they just let Kenny Stills go. So I don't know who he's supposed to throw the ball to next week. Um, and then Detroit. I mean, the Cowboys played the Washington football team. I should say the NFC East leading Washington football team now with 4 wins. One
Don't
of my
forget I
predictions.
called that shit. Yeah, let's go.
That score, if you saw, it was a little bit worse than the game actually was. They scored 2 touchdowns and they scored a touchdown to make it, I think it was 34-17. And that kind of like cemented the game, and they scored one in garbage time. It was a little bit closer than the final score made it out to be. But I guess my question for y'all is, obviously the Cowboys aren't going to be moved off of Thanksgiving Day for any reason. Just because they bring in so much revenue and Jerry Jones is not going for that. But are y'all of my opinion is always, I shouldn't say it's always been, for the last 2 or 3 years, it's been that the NFL needs to go to a Christmas Day NBA type schedule. The Cowboys can stay where they are. For ratings purposes, I get it. The Lions, they just got it because they volunteered for that. And I think we should all volunteer not to watch them. But I just want to ask y'all, what do y'all think the NFL can do to improve Thanksgiving Day games?
I don't think they can do much just because we got to remember Thanksgiving is like basically Thursday night. Obviously it's on a Thursday, but it's like Thursday night football. So like the players are compromising anyway to play on Thursday. So I don't know if they're going to go for more games on a Thursday. What I think they should do is randomize it where the teams on those bye weeks should be able to play. But I've always thought that the teams, they could have always lined up the bye weeks so whereas teams could play on Thursday and have that week off. But I don't know how the schedule will line up because people play different divisions. But I always thought they could always line up the bye weeks on purpose to do that, and that would be a solution for both sides. But I mean, the only reason we're having this conversation is because Steelers Ravens got moved. But other than that, I don't really know what more they can do because it's on a Thursday, and it's not like basketball where you can play a back to back or something like that. Moving from Sunday to Thursday for more than like 2 teams or more than, I guess, more than 6 teams is kind of dicey, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, like, that's the thing. Look, the Lions have lost the last 4 Thanksgiving games, and the Cowboys are the Cowboys. And they're not going to move them just because it's tradition at this point. Like, those are going to be the games. Like, maybe if you want to say, all right, so we know we got Dallas and we know we got Detroit, let's throw in, like, a Jacksonville so it's competitive. Like, maybe if that's what you, like, if that's what you want to do, like, that's the best you got. So you usually just have to bank on the third game. Unfortunately, the third game got canceled for COVID reasons. Prayers out to Lamar Jackson. Gotta hope he makes a full recovery. I mean, at the end of the day, it's just, what are you going to do? Because this has been like tradition for Lord knows how long, and they don't want to change it because the NFL has been very strict on, when we set something, that is what we're going to be moving forward.
I mean, plus, you got other stuff to do on Thanksgiving, eat. I mean, the Cowboys are bad, though. Cowboys are real bad. I've never seen them, like, laughably bad. Like, I don't know if Dak Prescott would have made a difference at this point. Not saying he's not better than Andy Dalton, but I don't know what the Cowboys can do. I think it's a lack of scheme, and it's also like because they got players. They haven't been drafting terribly. It's the lack of like offensive innovation. It's like, I don't know. But that's my opinion on the Cowboys.
So
Yeah.
like y'all noted, the game that was supposed to cap off the night was Ravens Steelers, and that got canceled obviously because of positive COVID tests. What is being reported at this point is that there's a strength and conditioning coach that was not taking the pandemic as seriously as he probably should have, and that kind of led to an increase in positive tests. Now, that obviously we can't confirm that because we don't at this moment, we don't have really an idea of how to trace who exactly got who infected with the virus, but the prevailing thought is that is what led to it, because he's been disciplined, quote unquote. I don't know what that means for the strength and conditioning coach. But that game did get canceled. We're talking about possibly moving this to Sunday. I don't know how that's even possible because Lamar Jackson
moved it to Tuesday.
Oh, they moved it to Tuesday. Okay.
Yeah, already. Yeah.
So I still don't even know how that's even possible, considering Lamar Jackson, I think, tested positive. He got his positive result on Thursday. So I don't even know how, if they don't have enough players, how they can play the game. I guess for y'all at this point, I'll say my opinion, but I for y'all, do y'all think that if this game can't be played, should it result in a cancellation or forfeiture at this point?
I think you can move it. You can move the playoffs back. I don't think it should be a forfeiture. I understand where the Pittsburgh Steelers are like, yeah, this is not, this is second time this has happened, but both of them already have a bye, so maybe we could do a cancellation, but I don't know, the forfeiture. It affects a lot of different people because the Steelers went out and they only had to play 15 games, and then the Chiefs went out and they had to play 16. It's not gonna work out, but obviously the Steelers will have to buy, but yeah, I don't know necessarily what the solution is to this one. I think it's the toughest task the NFL has this week or this year. But I think the most important thing is Lamar Jackson has COVID. So how does that affect the future of him going forward? Because we've seen a whole lot of different cases of COVID affect people different ways. So.
Yeah, this literal example is why they were thinking about expanding the playoff, right? Because you would have a pivotal game like this that you would either have to move back or, if worse comes to worse, forfeiture or cancel, which could affect the Ravens' entire season. Not even just in the division, that entire AFC is this close. And a game like this where the Ravens either forfeit it or just have it canned altogether could literally affect them not making the playoffs, and with seeing how the Ravens done it before, possibly making a Super Bowl run. So it's tough in a situation like this on how to really go about it. Personally, I think they're probably going to play the game Tuesday, unfortunately. Last time I said that they shouldn't play it, they did, which was the infamous Kansas City game, and then Stephon Gilmore got COVID, and then there was a whole thing about that. But it's clear, once the NFL sets something back, it takes a lot for them to really just be all right, we're canning it completely. So unless more Ravens at this point get COVID, I think that Tuesday will probably be the set date.
For me, I feel like I agree with y'all. I think it shouldn't be a forfeiture just because I feel like that sets a bad precedent in terms of how we approach this. Because if the Titans didn't get a forfeiture and the Raiders didn't get a forfeiture, I don't know how anybody can get a forfeiture. And I may be speaking out of turn, but I do think they have protocols set in place for this. And I don't think the first step is automatic forfeiture. I think it is to try to reschedule it. For me, the biggest issue I've had with this is hearing from certain Steelers players. And on one hand, I feel for them. Their bye week initially did get messed up. But in a sense, I don't feel as bad because you shouldn't be really – what are you doing on a bye week this year, really, other than resting up, which you got to do pretty much when you didn't have to play a game. And then on top of that, y'all signed up for this. Y'all knew that this was a possibility. And the third and fourth thing my issues have, the third thing being, if you're first, when you hear about somebody getting a positive test and your first reaction is, damn, this is going to mess up my week. Damn, this is going to mess up my schedule. And not for the concern of other people. That is the root of the issue that we have right now in this country. Like we completely act like, damn, if you get it, man, I'm just worried about how that's going to affect me. And that is the biggest issue, because that is how, like, thinking about ourselves in the midst of this pandemic and not the broader community is that kind of line of thinking is why people still go out. It's the type of thinking that leads to this kind of spread when we're thinking about ourselves and not the people around us. And the fourth thing is, like, this literally could be you next week. This virus does not care about what you do, what you say. I could have got COVID going to the grocery store. You can get COVID playing on the field, as we saw, like, with the Patriots. You can get it any type of way. So yes, we're gonna come down on people who are acting a fool and out at clubs and doing wild things that can cause you to get the virus. But there are also people out here who are getting the virus just by doing simple everyday things and still taking it seriously. There are other people in your locker room that could end up getting it, that are doing just as wild things as the Ravens strength and conditioning coach may have been doing, allegedly, but just haven't caught it. So, like, that was my biggest issue. And that, like, I saw Juju Smith-Schuster and, like, a couple other players tweeting about it. And it's just like, yo, like, y'all signed up for this. Your check's still clear. Yeah, it's inconveniencing you, but this whole season is an inconvenience. And if you did not want to put up with that, you could have opted out.
Yeah, I'm going to push back on that just a little bit. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but the Steelers are paying, or if they don't get this bye, which I mean, as a Chiefs fan, I hope they don't. But if they don't get this bye, they're going to be playing like 18 games in like 18 weeks or some crazy like that. It's like 16 games in 16 weeks, and without a late season bye or having a bye at week 4, I mean, that's kind of crazy. I mean, I guess like 12 games in 12 weeks is a little bit crazy too. Sometimes you end up getting that with an early bye, but their bye week was messed up, and we're talking about like a game where it's awful physical. And I mean, if it was basketball, I'd be like, yeah, we really need to make sure. But like, it's football, and the game is a lot physical. So I just think them being frustrated and taking to Twitter is not necessarily in great taste. So I agree with you there. But I also think that I don't know what else they could have done to voice their displeasure, because like this is the second time that's happened to them. It's not like the first time, I'm not saying they were completely understanding, because they did the same thing there, but I understand where they're coming from to a certain degree. And I'm not saying you don't, but I'm just saying, like, with playing 16 games in 16 weeks, really, if they make it to the Super Bowl, like, I mean, there's a lot of danger there. And it's not, professional athletes are not, like, really meant to do that either. I mean, we talk about that with the Ohio State thing. It's like playing 8 games in 8 weeks. That's crazy. But,
I agree with you. My issue, I guess my biggest issue lies in where they're taking their frustration out in. And it feels like the things that I read, it felt like they were taking out their frustration on the other teams and not on the league itself. Because the issue isn't necessarily that these teams getting COVID. We knew that was going to happen. That was an inevitable outcome of playing the season.
But Ryan,
yeah.
But Ryan, I mean, Chase Claypool literally said, NFL, this is bullshit. So I don't know if they're necessarily like taking it out on the Ravens.
In this situation, I'm specifically talking about Juju Smith-Schuster.
Okay.
He was the person I saw be the most vocal about it, and he said we're losing our bye week because another team can't get their COVID situation together. And I feel like that's unfair because now you're taking it out on all these players getting it. And from what we know so far, the first person to get it was the strength and conditioning coach. One person can lead to an entire outbreak for everybody else. So now you're blaming an entire organization for one person's decision.
Well, again, but this is where like this happening to them again, because it's happened to them with the Titans, where it was the entire organization sort of messing up the situation. So to them, it's just like, okay, so it's happening again. Somebody in an organization was careless. They didn't say who. They just said somebody in the organization was careless, and now we're getting punished for it. So I understand their anger. I may not completely agree, but you have to at least see from that standpoint. It's like, bro, what the heck, man?
Now, I will. Oh, sorry. I was just saying. Now I will admit the Ravens thing is different than the Titans thing because the Titans were holding practices.
Yeah.
Now, and that's utterly ridiculous. They're holding practices after they should have shut the thing down, and still got blown out. But or my bad, they blew. They
played one game. They blew out the Bills, and then they lost the next game.
Right, and then still lost. Lost to the Steelers or whatever. My bad, they didn't get blown out. But yeah, I mean that's different. So I admit that's different, but I also see where the Steelers are coming from. So I agree kind of with both of y'all a little bit.
The other thing, the reason why I focus on Juju Smith-Schuster because he was going on and on about like how they made the 49ers play with practice squad players and so on and so forth, and it was just like, yo, the game's not being changed. Like at a certain point, like you complaining on Twitter is not going to do anything. And I know we all do this. I'm guilty of doing this sometimes, complaining about things in life that are just not going to change. It just gets to a point where like this is the world that we live in, and this is the risk that we're taking. I guess that's the bottom line. This is the risk that we're taking by playing sports in a pandemic. And we have to do it because people got to get paid, bills got to get paid, at least as much as we possibly can, because there are obviously stadium workers, gig workers that are working for the team, that could be working for the team that can't work because there are no fans in the seats and so on and so forth. But moving off of football, because I didn't personally watch any football on Thanksgiving because I love myself. I watched college basketball. I watched Kansas and Gonzaga. I fell asleep watching VCU and West Virginia, and then I watched part of Arizona State and Villanova. And I kind of wanted to touch on, I guess, starting with Gonzaga and Kansas. The way we talk about, there are two things I wanted to talk about. The first thing, I had a conversation with my brother about how we view Mark Few. Because yesterday, Mark Few became, I believe, the third fastest coach to reach 600 wins. And ESPN was going on and on, rightfully so, because he's done a great job. But does Mark Few belong in the same category as the Jay Wrights of the world, the Coach K's of the world, even to an extent the John Calipari's of the world, without actually winning a title?
Well, John Calipari didn't win a title until recently. So John Calipari went, I mean, it's a little bit different because Calipari went to Final Four with UMass, but he went UMass, then Memphis, then he got the big job in Kentucky. So, Mark Few, he doesn't have a big job. Like, the fact that Gonzaga's number one is crazy to begin with. So, there's a saying, there was a, in that 30 for 30 one and done, John Calipari was like, they told me I didn't have a title, but I was coaching at UMass and, Memphis. So it's like, you got to kind of do this relative too, because it's like Gonzaga really isn't supposed to be a national power at all, and yet they are. So I'm going to give Mark Few, a little bit thing. And after that, listen, can we talk about how Bill Self still has a job? That's crazy. But, I don't mean to get y'all off track, but that is crazy if we talk about that game. But, yeah, go ahead.
No, we can talk about Bill Self. The one thing I wanted to add about Mark Few. The only thing I would push back on that is he's decided to stay at Gonzaga. Like with Calipari, he moved from job to job, and each job was a gradual upgrade. Mark Few could have any job open in the country every year if he really wanted it, and he's decided to stay at Gonzaga.
I love John Calipari because he gets the players paid, but he ain't moved from job to job without reason. Okay, let's not forget that. Okay, hey, I mean, I like his attitude on getting the players paid, the one and done, and all that good stuff. I'm a John Calipari fan, but I'm not gonna behave like the Marcus Camby thing didn't happen, the Derrick Rose thing didn't happen, and then obviously he took the Nets job in between there, but we can't pretend like that didn't happen.
Did Derrick Rose get paid, or they just have somebody take the SAT for him?
I mean, I'm saying, but he left because of violations. That's my only point. He didn't leave because he was like, this is. I mean, obviously Kentucky can't call him, but he always wanted a big job. But that's type of thing. I mean,
I just want to know how many points I needed to average in high school for somebody to take my SAT. Because I would love that. Because I walked out of the ACT. I took the SAT. I took the subject test. I had never finished the ACT. I walked out.
You're from the East Coast, though. Why would you take the ACT?
Because I was trying to go to Northwestern. It's a long story. I was trying to go to Northwestern. Okay. Did not get accepted. The only school I had to call to get a rejection letter from because they didn't send it.
Jeez.
But dang. Back to Bill Self. I think the reason why Bill Self has a job is the same reason. I can't even say Jim Harbaugh, but I think the line of thinking, my thinking is the same, is that he continuously wins. Even if he's not winning a title, he's winning something. He's winning a certain number of games that's keeping him at that job. And I understand the level that you need to reach to be at Kansas basketball is a lot higher than it needs to be at Michigan football, despite what Michigan fans may think. But I think his consistency is what kept him there. And you can make jokes about his consistency. He's getting knocked out in the Sweet 16. But he's still winning. I think how many conference titles he won in a row. He does have that one title thanks to Mario Chalmers, even though Mario Chalmers was not even the best player on that team. But he's still been able to be there long enough and just consistently win.
Oh yeah, that's not what I'm talking about. Though.
Oh,
I'm talking about the Adidas stuff.
Oh.
Yeah, he still got a job after that. I'm talking about the bag man, like federal probes. Like he still got some. He's still on the job. Like I was talking to my uncle about this the other day, and he was like, "Dang, like no lack of institutional control. Like dang." I mean, they looked into North Carolina of all places. They ain't never looked into KU. I mean, that's crazy.
I also noticed how that Zion stuff just went away. That Zion stuff.
Oh, that vanished. Poof.
That
gone.
Disappeared.
It's not even that. Like, Sean Miller still got a job.
That was the craziest one. Especially after that HBO.
That doesn't make sense.
Did y'all see that HBO documentary that I'm blanking on the guy's name that was responsible for recruiting DeAndre Ayton that got caught up in that whole thing. But after I saw that, I was just like, we really don't care about. Why don't we just pay these kids? Because we clearly don't care. We clearly do not care.
It's not even just that though. KU, he be recruiting some people who like there were some incidents on campus at KU with the basketball players that nobody looks into. I don't care about the academics, whatever. That's whatever. But we talking about like sexual assault and stuff like that. Like nobody's looked into KU's program at all. And I don't know why. I mean, I'm not a KU fan. Like maybe that's my bias, but it doesn't make sense. Like none of that makes sense to me.
I think the NCAA is just worried about having another Baylor situation where the things that I don't know how Baylor has never gotten the death penalty in any type of sport. The type of people died on their watch, and they did not like Jordan McNair died at Maryland. I thought they should have got the death penalty, but that was within the context of them conditioning him to literal death. The whole Baylor thing, they just letting people run wild on campus like it's GTA. That to me, but I think the reason why I don't understand why the police haven't looked into it, but I understand why the NCAA hasn't looked into it because they are afraid of what they will find. I think that is the fear for the NCAA.
But Baylor had infractions though. Baylor went on probation. KU has no infractions. Like it's crazy. Like
they are scotch clean.
like we talking about like remember IU the Samson thing, right? He was sending text messages. Like we talking about the NCAA don't want to pay nobody, but like somehow Bill Self still has a job. Like that doesn't make any sense. Like we can talk about the wins and losses. Like yeah, okay, Bill Self is whatever, but you know that's the same program that put up with Roy Williams not winning anything for a while. But I'm just saying, you know, that's crazy to me. That's all I'm talking about. Like yeah, we can talk about wins and losses and yeah, whatever. But like I think it's crazy that Bill Self and KU hasn't like been under any type of investigation outside of like the FBI. You know, like the NCAA hasn't said anything about that. You know, at least not to my knowledge, you know, so.
I would love to work for the NCAA because it seems like they get paid to do absolutely nothing.
My bad. We can talk about Mark Few though. We can talk about Mark Few.
That was the only conversation. My brother's a Duke fan, so he was obviously not here for putting Mark Few. Okay. He's not here for putting Mark Few in the same conversation as Coach K. He's not.
I mean, yeah, obviously yeah. Coach K the GOAT, but you know, I mean, also your brother's black and a Duke fan. Like that's acceptable now. That's crazy. That wasn't always acceptable.
We have, I mean, the Twitter account goes live tomorrow. I'll put up the picture. We went to Duke basketball camp as kids.
Hey,
that was like a huge like birthday gift. Obviously, I learned at a very young age, even though I kept the dream alive that I was never going to the league because the kids. I'm not saying Coach K was recruiting 9-year-olds, but there was some 9-year-olds in there that looked like they was about to go to the NBA. I don't remember none of them kids' names, but I wouldn't be surprised if they're on the NBA roster right now because some of them kids in there, like they brought the best of the best out there. But
Coach K the GOAT. I mean, yeah, for sure. You know, but I mean, Mark Few in terms of like all time, he got some ways. He got some ways to go. Like currently, like yeah, he's one of the top 5 coaches. I would say like K, Roy Williams, Jay Wright, maybe a Bill Self in there. I mean, obviously Calipari, and then you know maybe Mark Few, but you know, it's whatever, you know. But I mean, I was just curious what y'all thought about that KU situation, but like. You know, we can talk about it.
I mean, as we've seen with college sports, you keep losing, they will have an issue with you playing. Now, I'm not sure if they're a bad basketball team, but Gonzaga looked really, really good yesterday. They beat Kansas. They started out the recent season, as you said, ranked number 1 in the AP poll. Kansas ranked 6th. They beat them 102-90. My big takeaway from that is Jalen Suggs is a problem. That kid can play. But in terms of like the games themselves, it felt weird in a way that NBA basketball didn't feel weird playing in a bubble. I don't know if it's something I'm going to have to get used to, but it felt weird not having fans. It felt really, really weird not having fans at a college basketball game. Even if it's the early season tournaments where it's just casual fans or just people coming in off the street. Like it did feel weird seeing a Gonzaga Kansas matchup and not seeing a student, not seeing a parent, not seeing so on and so forth, and just Also, it also brought out the branding, the marketing of it, going back to not paying players. That put it on full display. Like, why are we marketing liquor to at a game where mostly half these kids can't drink liquor legally? Not saying that they're not drinking on a college campus, obviously, but there was they had BioSteel on the sidelines, that new drink had them just in rows, like you could clearly see them. It just felt weird, and I just want like how did y'all perceive like the start of college basketball? I guess I would start by asking, did you feel like it was marketed? Because I didn't even feel like I knew it was coming until the week of. But beyond that, did it feel weird for you to start watching college basketball this week?
I mean, it did. I'm hoping that it goes away, sort of like the beginning of the NBA bubble, because I know we, remember like the good stuff about the bubble, like when it first started off, and then the Suns, oh wait, they're undefeated now, and then the Lakers win the title, all that. But the beginning of the bubble, back when it started with like the Jazz and the Pelicans, it felt weird. Like they had virtual fans for the first time. We're like, what the hell is that? Like it was an adjustment, and then you had like the 2K sound in the background, so we had to sort of get used to that. College is going to be interesting though, because like the whole atmosphere of the bands and the cheerleaders and all the students cheering on their team, like that's usually on full display for like college, where a lot of the cheerleader and all that stuff in the NBA is like halftime shows, or whatever. So it'll be interesting. I'll admit, I think the adjustment should be fine. As for the advertisements, though, I mean, they gotta find some way to liven that. So they like, you know what? Let's get this money real quick. Bye.
I mean, yeah. I mean, the TV money's gonna be there, but we're gonna see this with college basketball, whether they're fans or not. One of the major things is the NBA is pushing into college basketball. With the G League Select team, and I'm not saying like that's all that obviously that's only like 12 kids, and that's only that's only 12 kids that are going to make the league or whatever. And obviously, you have your 4-year guys, and some of them make the league, and your 2-year guys, and whatever. Some kids go to college, right? And you got the blue bloods and the tradition of college basketball. But in terms of marketing players and marketable players, the NBA is trying to push that G League Select team, and I think that's going to be a major reason we are going to see like a decrease. And obviously, the tournament is different because it's spring, and it's a little bit different. It's a signal of spring. It's a signal of all this stuff. But like regular season games, I don't know if there's a hunger for like regular season basketball games anymore. Like, I mean, also you're seeing that in the NBA too. Like, maybe it's just not the same hunger, especially like I think Zion might be the last like marketable college star we've seen. We're gonna see for a while. I mean, these guys could go, but the NCAA kind of shot itself in the foot with the James Wiseman thing. So I don't know necessarily if it's weird. I just think the better analysis would be like just going forward. It's gonna be like this. Whether we have fans or not. I think the fans are obviously the atmosphere is different in college basketball, but the fans are like secondary to the actual product, and we're gonna see like the product isn't that good because we don't have a lot of people who we know / who are going to the league like that. So.
Yeah, I mean, I gotta agree with that. You talked about the NBA G League Select team. There's also like the European leagues. Like, I mean,
Right.
LaMelo Ball came like top 3. Denny was another one from like international. He was drafted in the top 10, and then you got RJ Hampton, who also went overseas. Like, it's
Right.
just college is no longer the only gateway to the NBA. So when it comes to getting talent, they're gonna have to find a way to entice them of like, hey, a year here is better than yada yada. Other than you'll have a year in college but you're not going to get paid. It's just going to be tough for the NCAA to really recruit with not much to recruit with, honestly, other than what they have.
Right. And, I mean, and then, the 4-year guys or the 2-year guys, we're not, I don't know if we're keeping tabs on them as much as we used to, like Tyler Hansborough, those kind of guys. I know that's kind of random, but still, those type of guys. Yeah, so I just think we're gonna see a little bit different marketing and a little bit different just being able to like have a hunger for these guys. It's gonna be different.
I also think we're gonna start seeing like a changing of, I guess, what teams we care about. We touched upon it briefly last week with like the preseason poll. But there's certain teams like it's not weird to see an Iowa in the top 25. It's weird to see them at number 3. And I think that's where you start to see a benefit of having a top 20 4-year players, because you're going to start seeing Iowa doesn't produce or recruit really one and dones. They recruit your 3 and 4-year players. You may see Wisconsin start to develop those types of players. Not to say that they have developed some NBA players, but they're players that go to Wisconsin are typically there for a long haul. And I just want to ask y'all, do y'all think there will be a shift in who we consider to be a mid-tier school? Not necessarily saying Wisconsin or Iowa, but say a Gonzaga, they're no longer considered a mid-major, or a Butler, they're no longer considered a mid-major. They're considered more power programs because they are able to recruit these really high-level 3 and 4-year players because they've been doing it for so long.
I mean, Wisconsin made the Final Four recently. Was it
2015?
12?
Yeah, that was a Frank Kaminsky year, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they beat Kentucky.
Frank Kaminsky was a 4-year guy, and then Sam Decker. What's his name? Nick Stauskas. No, Nick Stauskas went to Michigan. I'm sorry, but yeah, I guess we might see a shift, but I don't know. I mean, really, it's been the same schools. Like Baylor's been good for the last 10 years since Pierre Jackson. I mean, I don't know if it's not. I mean, there are athletic schools that have. It's not like, yeah, Gonzaga is one of those schools, but they have a basketball history at this point. But Iowa, that's an athletic school. That's a Big Ten school. Wisconsin is a Big Ten school. Baylor's athletic. It's a Big 12 school. It's not like we're seeing guys in the in the A10 or anything like that go far. I mean, I guess Dayton last year, but they had Obi Toppin. I don't necessarily think it's going to be a shift from perennial powers that haven't been doing anything. I think Kentucky's going to always be viable. Duke and Carolina. Carolina had an off year, but they have the recruits now. But what you are seeing is the guys that we're seeing the shift in blue bloods that want to be prominent versus the blue bloods that want to win. And I think those are different. I think Coach K is doing the one and done thing because Duke basketball and his tie with USA basketball, he's recruiting off that, Roy Williams is doing the thing where he's recruiting not 4-year guys, but guys that are mid-level, 4 stars, 5 stars that are necessarily aren't one and done, but they're going to stay 2 or 3 years. They're not going to necessarily be seniors, but they're going to be sophomores and juniors. Well, on top of getting another 5-star class, for example, Cole Anthony, but he had juniors and seniors on that team too, even though it didn't work out. So I think that's what we're seeing with those two. That's kind of what I'm seeing with that type of thing. I don't think it's necessarily like new schools as much as like different schools are doing different things now.
Right. I mean, it's that whole top cream of the top, your Dukes, your Kentuckys. It's just going to be hard for them to really ever look. I don't want to say bad because obviously you could have a bad year, but like they have these sort of mannerisms that can still attract, the big time players. Like, yes, of course, college football isn't getting recruiting like it used to, but still, that thought about being coached by Coach K is always going to be like something that lingers, right? In Kentucky, I mean, just name the amount of stars that's walked through that hall: Anthony Davis, John Wall, Rajon Rondo. Like, it's hard for you to really turn down those schools. Like, I think they're going to stay at the top because of just everything that they have compared to like other schools. But still, obviously, there's going to be other ways now with the 4-year players now being more pivotal.
Yeah, I mean, and everybody kind of probably guesses in like a 5-star either. Like obviously Bam was like number 5 in America, but like Tyler Hero was like a 3 or 4-star, I want to say. You
3, I
know.
think. Yeah.
Yeah, he was a 3-star, So, I mean, and he stayed for a couple of years, I want to say.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, I think it's just different. It's just different. We're gonna see, the guys who go deep like the Villanovas, they're gonna have their 3-year players, and then but they're still gonna have a recruiting class that's top 10 because those guys aren't necessarily doing that. So like yeah, like we'll be surprised when those guys get into the league. Like that's something me and my uncle were talking about. Like we'll be surprised when those guys get into the league that stay in the school a little bit longer. They'll be like mid-level draft picks, and then we'll be like, oh, they're $20 million players, and we'll be like, oh, okay, how did that happen? But when you look, they're like top 10 in America, So it's like you just got to watch out for stuff like that. I mean, I think stuff like this affects the league too. So like Bam was a mid-level draft pick, and I don't know if he was one and done. I don't think he was. Was he?
Yep, Bam's one and done. 2016,
Bam. Okay.
2017.
Okay. My bad. Okay. So that's a bad example, but like him being a mid-level draft pick, like yeah, like it would make sense that he's a max level player because he was like number 5 in America. That type of thing. That's a bad example, but you get my point.
I think we'll also see like the development of like some of these. We talked about them here and there, but like the children of these star players, I may not necessarily be the best players in the world, but they come with a certain level of marketability. Like Shaq's son finally got to play after all that he's been through
Right.
at LSU. Zaire Wade, he's doing a year at Brewster Academy up in New Hampshire, but he'll be in college next year. We'll see Bronny. I don't know if we'll see Bronny in college. It just depends on his skill level. That will be the determinant of it. I do think LeBron, everything from what LeBron has told us about his feelings about different schools, I feel like Bronny's going to go to college. Whether he plays at college or he's just taking college classes, that's yet to be seen, but he will be at some kind of college. But just to wrap up college basketball before we get into talking about Bam Adebayo at the pro level and NBA, and then college football. But one story has been like kind of floating out there. McCord Maker, he finally stepped on the court. A loss by 17 to Belmont. He had 11 points, 8 rebounds. He looked better than what I thought he would look like. And that may be just because he's playing against Belmont. But he looked like a 5-star recruit. Like he looked like he can be a player. I don't know if he's one and done. If I were him, I'd be one and done because I just like he's that big. Like he's got. Why would I play for free? But it looks like the start of something that could be good there. I don't know. As far as this is a deeper conversation, but just as far as the country's momentum has shifted, I don't know if we're as much of believing and there's going to be a shift in players wanting to go to HBCUs as I would have thought in maybe July or August. But it is something to look forward to because Howard has done a decent job with recruiting 2 and 3 star recruits, and hopefully they can build around him. But with that said,
Oh, my bad. I had a point on that real quick.
No, you go.
I'm sorry.
No, you good.
No, I was just saying, like that's part of what we were saying earlier
Yeah.
about like Bill Self and stuff like that. Like Howard's got the Under Armour, right?
Yeah, they have the Under Armour deal.
And the coach
is a former Duke player.
Right. So, I don't think that's any different than like what's been going on. Like I don't think it's like a love for HBCUs that people have suddenly have. I think like Howard just got a little bit more juice now.
I think it's a little bit of both. Like I do think what you're saying is true about the schools, but there are other Under Armour schools he could have gone to. I'm not saying like Under Armour dominates college basketball, but he could have gone to other Under Armour school. I think it's like a 50-50, 60-40, however we want to split it. But I do think it's something that can add to it and something we'll see. Because like you said, like not every school has Under Armour contracts. I don't know about Hampton. I don't know. I don't think they have an Under Armour contract. I don't think they have a Nike contract.
Right.
But we'll see how that goes. But when we come back, we can talk a little bit about free agency. Bam Adebayo just got a 5-year extension for a whole lot of money. But when we come back, we can talk about that.
What's up, y'all? It's Ryan. And before we get into the next segment, I wanted to talk to you about one of my favorite brands out today. Now, with Black Friday just having wrapped up and Cyber Monday right around the corner, I want to talk to you about Mizizi. That's right, Mizizi. Mizizi. It's one of the greatest streetwear brands out today. I got one of my favorite Black Lives Matter baseball jerseys. They got Black Panther jerseys. They've got jerseys for every country. So if you're from Nigeria, from Jamaica, wherever you may be, they have custom made jerseys for you right now to rep where you're from. Maybe rep your favorite TV show, your favorite movie, your favorite singer. You name it, they've got it. So make sure that you stop by MiziziShop.com. That's right, Mizizi shop.com. Now let's get back to the show.
And we are back. So now we're reaching the hour mark, so I'll try to get through this as quickly as we can. So obviously free agency has been a big topic of conversation the last few weeks. It feels weird to talk about free agency over Thanksgiving, but that's where we are. Last week we talked about some of the bigger moves. I guess the two biggest things to happen haven't happened yet, which is Giannis deciding what he's going to do, and then whatever the Rockets are going to do with James Harden and Russell Westbrook, whatever they decide to do. But DeMarcus Cousins did sign down in Houston, and the Lakers made a lot of good moves. Like they picked up Montrezl Harrell, Marcus Gasol, Wesley Matthews, just a few guys. And I just want to kind of like ask y'all, like, are there any teams that you didn't necessarily think that were going to be playoff contenders or have a shot at making the playoffs before free agency that are now in a position to do that after free agency?
Go ahead, Gerald.
Okay. So first off, let me get something off my chest about free agency. I'm going to need fans to chill out. Like, I don't know why it seems like almost every time some type of rumor comes out, they go, oh, my God, we finally got – like, no, calm down. And I'm especially talking to my Boston Celtics fans because y'all have not shut up the entirety of free agency. The entirety of free agency, I've been hearing about, oh, well, Bogdanovich going to go to the Celtics. How? Like, yeah. But back on top. As for, like, the teams I think could be good, Charlotte, I think, looks better. I just don't like the Hayward contract. Like $120 million for a dude who has never stayed healthy and has one All-Star appearance is nuts. But I think like as a team as a whole, I get it. Like you want a guy who could play off ball well. LaMelo plays off ball well. And I like Charlotte's makeup. The only problem I have is I just don't know how good LaMelo Ball is going to be off jump. If he's good, they should make the playoffs. If not, it'll be interesting. As for Atlanta, man, I don't trust that defense.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of fans in Boston, yeah, y'all are defending Gordon Hayward a lot in the media. Nah, I mean like what I mean by that is like you know, with the Kyrie thing, y'all were like, oh, Kyrie left. And then and then Horford left, y'all like, oh, Horford left. But somehow it's like, y'all cool with this Gordon Hayward thing? And it's like, what happened was the same thing that just been happening the last 2 years.
Okay, I kind of agree with you there because for whatever reason, people are like pissed off we let Gordon Hayward walk. Although we went to the Eastern Conference Finals twice without him, acting like he ain't. Like I don't get why people think Gordon Hayward was like the holy grail for us. Maybe that's because he's white. Maybe that's just because they have this weird fantasy of what he was before injury. I don't know, but they need to chill on that. But I mean, the Horford thing pisses me off for a completely different reason. The Horford thing pisses me off is because this man left to get more money and to be a power forward, but he sucks as a power forward. So now he just got overpaid for no reason when he could have just stayed on our team, been a center, and we would have been fine. That's why I'm pissed at the Horford shit.
I think Horford is done, though. I think I dodged a bullet with that one. But I was just saying, like, it's funny how, like, many Gordon Hayward defenders there are in Boston. And it's just like, he wasn't that good. Like, I know he broke his, like, he broke his ankle in half, but, he wasn't that good, like, at all. But, I mean, whatever. I mean, the Gordon Hayward, Jaylen Brown thing was always a point of contention, not only racially, but just on the court. But, yeah. I mean, but, like, for a team that I think is going to be, like, better after free agency, I think the Warriors kind of salvaged what they could. I don't know if they're a playoff team, but I think they're better than like what they would have been if they just stayed pat after the Clay injury. Like I think Kelly Oubre is a decent pickup. Like he's not Klay Thompson, but we're gonna see. I like the Christian Wood signing for the Rockets. That's pretty much it. Like, I think Atlanta's going to be okay. I mean, if Trae Young's going to pour in 28 a game again, I mean, that's a good start. But, like, we talk about defense, though. Like, Trae Young, who's he supposed to hold, though? You know what I'm saying? He's, like, 6 feet tall. Like, how's that supposed to work? You know what I'm saying?
I get what you're saying. Yeah.
The only thing I would push back against, I do agree with y'all in terms of the way Gordon Hayward was treated walking out. I'm not sure if you saw that post his wife put out. That was hilarious how people took that and ran with that. I'm not gonna go into that because I feel like we've made a few too many jokes. I don't want to lose any of our white listeners. But right. One thing I would say about Gordon Hayward, not to say that they didn't overpay for him, but I do think he was going to get in the mid-20s from somebody. And I think to get him to go to Charlotte, they had to overpay him. Because it looked like as a Pacers fan, I'm glad they overpaid for him because I did not want him coming to Indiana for Miles Turner and TJ Warren. I just felt like that was too much to give up for somebody that I don't know if he can stay healthy. And it's getting older, adding on to that. But
I'm glad you didn't go to Indiana for a different reason.
I am also glad he didn't go to Indiana for a different reason.
Bruh.
you would see.
Y'all think, nah, time out. I got it. Y'all want to see racial animosity between Gordon Hayward and Jalen Brown. Imagine Gordon Hayward and Victor Oladipo.
Oh yeah.
Oh my goodness.
No.
They both injured, both former All-Stars. It would have been there, bro.
They would have tried to treat that like a buddy cop movie that could end racism. That is how they would have tried.
Both from Indiana too.
Oh, Lord.
But they don't treat them both like they from Indiana.
No. They trying to ship away Vic. They acting like losing Hayward was the worst thing ever.
Hey, they wanted everybody. They want an IU star until the IU stars start coming, and then he's like, "Oh, well, they forgot he even went to IU." You know, that's crazy the way they treat Vic Oladipo around there. But that's just a different issue for a different day. I'm just saying we think the Jaylen Brown situation was bad and built off racial animosity. I don't know what that Victor Oladipo situation was going to be, but you know, especially since somebody didn't want, you know, they had to act like Gordon Hayward was the next coming to Peyton Manning out there. You know what I'm saying? Shoot. Man, go ahead though. I'm sorry.
I guess the last thing I would touch on in the NBA. How do y'all feel about this has gone on for not even just last season, but even the season before, this competition, this growing, I can't even call it a rivalry because one side hasn't really won anything, but this competition between the Lakers and the Clippers, this arms race. So the Clippers picked up Serge Ibaka. I already went through the list of people that the Lakers brought in, but they also lost a few people. They did lose Dwight Howard and a few other pieces that were there last year. But I wanted to ask y'all, are y'all agreeing with this social media sentiment that the Lakers, it is their title to lose, at least on paper? We don't know how these pieces are going to come together. On paper, does it look like they're titled to lose?
Yes and no. Like, I agree in the perspective of who else are you going to put over the Lakers? I don't agree with the perspective that they feel like just because of these additions, that makes the Lakers unstoppable. They've lost a lot defensively. And I know that goes underrated in the game today because, you know, there's a lot of scoring. But I think, like, when you look at the pieces, right, Dwight Howard, Rajon Rondo, Avery Bradley, like, it's a lot of pieces that were sort of the anchor of the Lakers' defensive identity as a whole. And, like, you're bringing in Montrezl Harrell, not a good defender. You're bringing in Dennis Schroeder. He's not a good defender. But I do think he helps with the Rondo replacement. And, all right, Marc Gasol is about to be the most overrated signing this offseason. I watched him in that Celtics series. I watched him in the Brooklyn series. This man couldn't defend nobody. And these dudes think they getting Memphis Marc Gasol. Y'all about to be disappointed, just like Danny Green all over again. Telling them right there. I mean, the Lakers should be favored. But I don't think it's as, like, head and shoulders better than everybody else's people think it is going to be.
Yeah, it depends on what you're thinking about, what you're getting from Marcus. So I think he's going to get 15, 20 minutes from him. I don't think he's playing crunch time, though. So, I mean, it depends on, temper your expectations or whatever. But, I mean, in terms of the Lakers, I mean, I think they're better than the Clippers, but, you know, I don't know if they're that much better than the Clippers. I think the Clippers outside the bubble are going to be a different team, especially since. And I don't think the Clippers are going to win the championship. I don't think so. But I do think that the Clippers are better outside the bubble than people would give them credit for it. I mean, they played the Lakers tough all like 4 games last year. So, I mean, that can't be taken away. But, you know, Anthony Davis and LeBron James, that's hard to beat. You know, right now, I don't see a team that's got it like that. But, you know, I could see if Philly makes a trade for James Harden or, you know, we're talking about James Harden and Joel Embiid. And then, Boston, maybe if Danny Ainge wakes up and tries to win the championship at one point, maybe they would do something. But I don't know. That's about it.
I guess we can leave it there. I did want to touch on college football real quick because I had some things I needed to get off my chest about. This is the last time I'm going to come in here and complain about Cincinnati and BYU. I promise y'all that. I'm just tired. I'm exhausted as a fan of college football. Like I've said before, I like chaos in sports. I just think it makes things more fun. I do want to see the best teams play, but I do like chaos every now and then. But this week, it wasn't even necessarily about chaos with the college football playoff rankings. It's the first ones we've had. Obviously, it came out a little bit later this year because of the pandemic. But some of the stuff it doesn't make sense. And it's partially because the College Football Playoff Committee has never stuck to a criteria. It changes every single year. And James loves to point out the year that Ohio State, my Buckeyes, made it without winning their conference after they used them winning the conference the year before as a reason that they should get into the conference. I understand that. But this year it really bugged me just from the jump. So we have the top 4 teams. Clemson is ranked 3rd ahead of Ohio State, who's at number 4. We have Alabama and Notre Dame. I'm not as upset as other people about Clemson being over Ohio State. I think it's wrong, but I'm not upset about it because the Notre Dame Clemson thing is going to work itself out. It's just going to work itself out eventually. The one thing I do vehemently push back against is this idea that if Trevor Lawrence was playing, they would have beaten Notre Dame handily. That is not how I saw that game, and it doesn't make any sense to me because they put up 43 points. They're not putting up that many more points with Trevor Lawrence. And the biggest issue that they have is that they've had a lot of injuries on defense, and they're not defending anybody. We talked about Boston College. We talked about them against Syracuse. They didn't get to play against Florida State, which we'll get to in a minute, and how Diabo has reacted to that. But right behind Ohio State, it's Texas A&M and Florida, which is my biggest issue. Texas A&M and Florida have beaten collectively 2 teams with a winning record, and they've played 13 games. I'm sorry. Texas A&M one game win against a winning team is against Florida, and Florida's win against a winning team is against Georgia, and Georgia's one game win against a winning team is against Auburn. This is all circular because we don't play anybody outside of our conference because of the pandemic. And I understand that, but it blows my mind how we can do circles. If we're doing this, we're completely doing it off of eye test and we're wasting everybody's time. That is where I get to it with it. If we're doing it off of eye test, I could tell you in the first 3 weeks who the best teams in college football are, just based off of eye test, provided everybody stays healthy from that point on. I didn't need 8 weeks to tell you that Clemson is a top 4 team. I could see that in week 2. Like, we don't need to do all this. And then we get a little further down the list, which is Northwestern's at 8, y'all. Like, who Northwestern beat? Who do Ohio State? Like, these teams don't beat nobody. And then we use, like, Cincinnati. They haven't beaten anybody. Cincinnati has 2 wins against the top 25 teams. They got the 4th best strength of record. Like, I'm just tired of it. And then you got BYU behind 2 lost teams. Like, I'm tired. I'm tired of it. I'm sick and tired of it. But this is where we're at because Power 5 schools are supposed to be better.
Sorry.
No, I was just gonna say that is me. That is done. I guess the last quick things. Ryan Day will not coach on Saturday because he tested positive for COVID. Nick Saban will also not coach on Saturday because he tested positive for COVID. And Notre Dame and North Carolina are currently tied at 14. But that is my diatribe. You will not hear me talk about Cincinnati or BYU on this podcast until we get to conference championship week. So I'm done.
All right then.
But I guess quickly going through two quick things. Dabble. I'm not sure if y'all saw that. Like right after we got off this podcast recording, I think within 24 hours, Dabble Sweeney lost his goddamn mind. Because he wanted to call out Florida State for running from Clemson, or being scared of Clemson, or whatever words he used, because Clemson had a positive person test positive that was on the plane going with them to Florida State. And he wanted to complain because the school had spent $300,000 to go down to Tallahassee to play Clemson, and they knew they were going to get beat. So that's why they didn't want to play them. That is the dumbest reasoning I've ever heard in my goddamn life. Y'all beat Georgia Tech 7,500 to nothing, and they were not scared. So y'all think a bunch of 5-star recruits is supposed to be scared of Clemson. Like that is the prevailing wisdom we're going with here. And if he's so concerned about them spending all this money, he can give the money from whatever size contract he has back to the school if he's that concerned about it. Or you know what? Give it to the kids. Give it to the kids. Be for the kids, Dabo.
I am. Dabo don't believe the players should get played. But no, with that, I think obviously it's irresponsible what he said because, he's acting like he's a doctor, and that's really irresponsible.
So I just wrap up just by picking games. Typically we just do pick games, I guess this week. I want to try something a little bit different. Just doing like a prompt, something I saw on Twitter earlier this week. If you could pick your slate of 5 Christmas Day games this year, what games would you pick?
All sports?
No, just first for the NBA. If you could pick the NBA
NBA?
schedule, if you could pick the NBA schedule this week.
All right.
Oh, okay, I'll go. Lakers, Clippers, Boston, Philly, Miami, and I would say Miami and Miami, Dallas, maybe. Golden State and maybe Utah. And then one more, I would pick Houston, as long as they still had James Harden. Houston and Houston, maybe Minnesota. There you go. That'd be a good slate.
All right. So for me, I'm agreeing with Lakers Clippers, Battle of LA. I'd go rematch of the Eastern Conference Final, Miami Boston.
Okay.
I'd go Milwaukee Philly.
That's right. I forgot somebody. I'm sorry.
I'd go Dallas and Denver. And I guess I could end it off with like a interconference game. I guess I would probably just go with Charlotte Phoenix.
Yeah, I'll change that though. Let me go Milwaukee. Houston, because James Harden and Giannis got beef like that.
Oh, they do. Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, it's Heat Celtics, Lakers Sixers, Rockets Nets, Clippers Nuggets, and Warriors in the Suns. And I guess from there, for the Monday night game, it is Seahawks, the Eagles. How much are you picking the Seahawks by? If at all.
I'm not going to pick against the Seahawks, but you know what? No, I'm not going to give Philly that benefit of the doubt. I don't care. They're going to lose by at least 2 touchdowns. I don't care.
What's the line on it? 10?
A lot.
Oh, the line is 10?
No, I'm saying it's probably a lot. I'm going to look it up as you're talking, but I believe it is something in the neighborhood of at least a touchdown.
I mean, I got Seattle, but maybe by 10. But
Seattle's a 5-point favorite.
oh, okay. I got them by 10 though. I take the points on that.
Against the Eagles?
Yeah, I mean,
because Seahawks don't play defense. I think that's the biggest reason.
Oh, yeah, fair.
But with that said, I will offer my pick for, I don't know, I will describe what I will think will happen on Saturday between Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. That's why we can wrap the topic up and wrap up the podcast at the same time. The rules, there will be 2 8-minute rounds. Both Tyson and Jones said 2-minute rounds are for women, which is offensive, but also the rules for women's boxing in most sanctioning bodies. So there's that. They will be wearing 12-ounce gloves, which are the big gloves that you wear, not the regular boxing gloves. No headgear. And the fight will be stopped if there is a knockdown or a cut. And there will be no judges. So I don't know what the point of this is, but I think the first person to land a shot to the liver is the person that will win. I don't know which person that's going to be, but that is how I expect it to go. As far as Jake Paul and Nate Robinson, I fully expect this to be as confusing as it sounds because Jake Paul has boxing experience and Nate Robinson has what we call can't go back. So I don't know who's going to win that fight. I just say this will be a fight that will go the distance because neither one of them is going to quit. So with that said, is there anyone that you want to add?
I was gonna say we forget Nate Robinson's a 5'7" football player, and I'm not trying to fight them dudes. But go ahead, Jake Paul.
Yeah.
So this has been our longest podcast to date, but it's been fun. As always, I mean, if you came into this podcast thinking that Gordon Hayward deserved $30 million, I would tell you that deserve has nothing to do with it. If you came into this podcast thinking that Kansas was a clean program, I would tell you that what the hell is clean in college basketball. And lastly, if you left this podcast a smarter sports fan or a happier sports fan or just an easier going sports fan than when you came in, I would say I'm very jealous of you because I would like to do that as a Broncos fan. But with that said, we will see you next week. Next week will be in December. It's the last month of 2020. We're almost out of this year. So as always, thank you, Gerald and James, and we'll see y'all next week.
And that about wraps us up. Thank you once again for listening to this week's episode of Put It in the Group Chat podcast. On behalf of Gerald, James, and myself, I would just like to say, as always, thank you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for supporting us. Thank you for just being there and entertaining us. And we hope that each week we can make your day or your week just a little bit better. And if we've done that, then we've succeeded in what we're trying to do. So we'll see you back next week and enjoy the outro music. Peace.
Hey, Ross, sauce it up.